Good morning, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I'm here in my guest bathroom, and the reason is because I got a question on YouTube about motive for murder. And so I listed, and I said nobody's been arrested, so we don't really know what the motive for murder, is until that happens. But there's some really good possibilities. And one of them is that it's now known that before the murder attempt, I trapped a burglar in this room, in this guest bathroom. And what happened was, after I returned from the hospital, I found these pry marks on the top inside a door jamb. You see them there, and they wasn't there, prior to me being shot. And so that's what told me that there was a burglar trapped in this room. And this was one of the rooms I had tie wired the doors shut, and so several people made comments about the tie wire, and so it was just super, super clear that a burglar was trapped in this room. And if the police would have arrested the burglar, then it would expose the hidden access to this home, the underground homes, all the other murders, crimes, and everything, And that's what it's looking like, is the police that were under my home, we now know were, they didn't want to arrest this burglar. And the irony of the whole thing is that I was reporting burglaries to the police, and the police were working with the burglars that were breaking in my home. So anyways, what I'm going to do is go show you what I was talking about on this Facebook post here, and the other motives, possible motives for murder. This is going to be real interesting. And this is Facebook. It was actually YouTube. That was my post from last night. How much bribe money do you think they get to cover up the crimes and murders? And I went on and asked, do they get more money when they murder a little girl versus murdering a homeowner? How much money they get when they cut the leg off a crime victim? And so I'm just asking these questions. Here we go. And it started here. And a lot of people find this interesting. This troll asks, says, "Are you the victim of gang stalking?" And I replied and I said, "I'm the victim of a home invasion and capital attempted murder, but it's a large group of criminals, aka a gang, and stalking is one of the many crimes that have been committed against me. There's also burglary, theft, terrorism, murder, mutilation, slander, extortion, and others." Okay. And then this person wrote 4 hours ago, and that's what this Facebook's post about, terrorism. And it says, "Do you have people committing violence, intimidation in the pursuit of political alms against you?" Okay. So then I did a long write up on that one, when about the terrorism. Okay. And I said, yes, terrorism. After they failed to murder me and get my home for free, this criminal gang has conspired together to terrorize me into selling my home at the price they set, which is a violation of the Hobbs Act. This is still going on. I put the links to a couple of videos showing the proof of this happening. Okay. The reason is easy to see, as there's an underground home in the backyard, just like seen on Google Maps and stated by multiple people. It was put in for the Bushes in the 80s, used for oil show parties, and connected with multiple capital murders such as the young girl and the previous owner. When that is exposed, then the rigging of homes across America with hidden underground access will also be exposed, and a major organized crime operation stopped. I'm sure that it's going to cost them millions of dollars, with many people going to prison for these crimes. The motive for murder is still unknown since nobody has been arrested, but there are several very good possibilities, and it could be a combination. It's possible that some politicians' careers will be ended when this racketeering is exposed, Because remember that guy says, is it terrorism because of political reasons or whatever? And so here, I put these dot points. I said, it's believed a young landman attorney named Matt Hyman was electrocuted here during a home invasion 2 weeks before the murder attempt. So the motive for murder may have been revenge. Okay, I've got several videos on that. It's now known that I trapped a burglar in my guest bathroom a few hours prior to the murder attempt without knowing it. If the police had arrested that criminal, then it would have exposed the hidden access to this home and the many other crimes and murders connected with it. Here's the next one. I was told by the ex-wife that a lot of people would have their lives ruined if it was found out what they were doing under my home on the night I had trapped a burglar and was then shot by surprise. Okay. I had just filed divorce from the ex-wife 5 days earlier. She is said to have been involved in the shooting by her former boyfriend, and if her friend, Detective Rosie Rodriguez, ruled my murder an accident, then it would give her the special home and around $650,000 instead of getting nothing from a divorce from a 3-month marriage, ending under allegations she's working with the prostitution ring. I was tear gassing the attic and contacting law enforcement. This is the next dot point. I was tear gassing the attic and contacting law enforcement at the time, so I was a problem for these criminals. That could expose the many other homes that are rigged like this one. I suspected that my mom may have been murdered a few weeks earlier. There's still unanswered questions about my mom's death the month before. I found out about a young girl being murdered at the oil show party from Angie and suspected the last homeowner had been murdered here the week before the 2008 oil show started. And there's other ones. Even while I was sitting here talking, I'm thinking, oh, here's another one, And I put a couple links for this guy. I decided to sell my home. And that talks about the terrorism to try to terrorize me into selling my home. And then here the threatened again was just recently and a whole list of all the many threats that I got because it was a terrorism question. We'll look at just a couple files and then close this out. I call this the move post, and this is an old one, okay? I mean, there's, why don't you move? I've been asked hundreds and hundreds of times, These people want me to move so bad you can't imagine. I'd move. I mean, it's pages after pages of pages after move, just rude, hateful. Here's this one, sell and move the F out, you moron. We're going to get busted if you don't. That's what she's saying, right? That's obvious. Like, we want your home, I don't care if you worked all your life, saved your money and bought a home. We want it and we're going to take it because we got dirty cops helping us. That's what they're saying, move. That's what it is. And see, but when you do that, when you conspire together, and I'm going to show you here the Hobbs Act, okay? The Hobbs Act says extortion means the obtaining of property from another with his consent, induced by the wrongful use of actual or threatened force, violence, or fear, or under color official right, okay? So that's 20 years in prison for a violation of the Hobbs Act. It's a racketeering crime, organized crime, right? Okay, and here it's showing extort or attempts to conspires to do so. Now I'm going to show you just a few of these threats. And remember, I put a video on there here. Erica Camille said, fast forward 2 weeks, Mr. Buddy Webb's nowhere to be seen. No one has seen or heard from him. Police are looking for leads, right? Austin Presti, I'm going to call, have a wellness checks on you. Here's a Bacchus. He's spreading everything all over the net with everyone's name, and he's going to wind up being in a hole, Randy Walsh, you better stop worrying about it. They're going to get the snitch, So if you report burglaries, crimes, and murders at your home, you're a snitch. That's what he says, And here's Lance Eggleston. You will be silenced, not if, but when. And actually, Lance, what he said was, we have access to your residence at all times. Nobody will ever believe your story. You will be silenced, not if, but when, And I wrote back and I said, when are you going to murder me, Lance? And here's another one, Tracy talking, suggesting that I'm being poisoned in my house, which that's exactly what's been going on too. And there's many more. I was threatened at a grocery store just a few weeks ago. That was that video I made. And then just many more of these move comments. And it's just amazing. This crime ring is conspired together to terrorize me into selling my home. Okay, here's another motive for murder. This is the young girl that was murdered at the I believe this is the young girl that was murdered at the 2010 underground oil show party. Angie told me about a young girl murdered at a party. She was leaving my home and at the party in 5 minutes. Our phone records will verify that. That's all there. I believe she's parking in the Home Depot parking lot, going underground there, coming back here via that tunnel you could see on Google Earth Maps. And the party was in the underground home with one of them in the backyard. That's where the young girl was murdered at. And in 2013, the remains of a 14 to 21-year-old girl was found outside of Midland. I'm sure the people that murdered that little girl would kill to keep the public from finding out, because that's a death penalty case, right? Yes, the terrorism. Okay, this is the previous owner of my home, Mike Lawhon. And he died the week before the 2008 oil show started. I believe that's probably why he died, And just one of the evidence I found on him is a newspaper, Odessa American, posted a death notice, said he died in Fort Worth, okay? And then 4 days later, they posted a second death notice, changed the location of death to say he died at his residence. That's here. That confirmed what a neighbor told me, that Mike died at this house. Okay. So I believe Mike was murdered here and taken to Fort Worth. Okay. And that's part of the evidence. You know, that has been deleted by that newspaper too. Okay. Homes all over. Since I was ambushed and shot reporting people in the attic, I've documented 50 other homeowners reporting people in the attic all across the nation, with a dozen addresses in Midland, another dozen in Odessa, and I'm sure that's the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole bunch more of them. That's a pretty good motive for murder. You know, once it gets, the crimes get here exposed, it's going to expose all them. Okay. This is what I showed you already. We were in that bathroom. I'm showing you the pry marks. I was at the FBI office, and I'm telling this FBI agent the last time I was there, and he pulled this picture up on his phone without me telling him where it was at. He went and got this picture, and we talked about it, and I didn't tell him where it was at. He already somehow knew. And I think the reason he knew, because this was used as an excuse to try to murder me in my home. A burglar was trapped, and it's real possible it was police that tried to murder me because this burglar was trapped, because they knew if they arrested the burglar like they're supposed to do, it would expose their all the other crimes and murders, the underground facilities, all the Riggs home, the murder last homeowner, the murder little girl, all that. This is the nurse's assessment notes at the hospital, and that's where I was telling them I was tie wiring my doors shut, there at the hospital. That's when I trapped that burglar. This was just posted, I think, last year, and it was from the former boyfriend of the ex-wife, Arthur Welch, and he told me in 2012 that he believed she had a lot to do with the shooting from the things she said, and that she threatened to have him killed too. And then he posted this in 2020, 8 years later. He said, cops were recorded hiding evidence and laughing about this man being shot. I was dating this guy's ex-wife when I overheard her talking, and from the things I heard, she had tried to have him killed for insurance money, and to hear how many police were involved, one her longtime personal friend, that would have been Rosie Rodriguez. I won't let Buddy Wayne Webb be laughed at. Her final words to me was, I'll have you shot too. Okay, so his story didn't change in 8 years. So, there's real good possible motives for murder, right? Here's another one. 2 weeks before the murder attempt on my life, I believe that Matt Hyman was electrocuted in my hallway. I recognized people were in my house, and I put electricity in my bedroom doorknob, and then And then after I was ambushed and shot, my phone lines cut, I went and checked the obituaries, and I found where this young man, 33 years old, happened to die of a surprise heart failure at the same exact time that I had electricity on the door. And he happened to be a landman, and I suspect the landman are really connected with underground oil show parties, okay? He's also an attorney, okay? And here was just more evidence. There's a whole longer story about it, about his sister-in-law telling me how he died of a heart defect that nobody knew about, And I'm going, well, electricity stops the heart, And then I was like, what time did he die? Did he die in the morning? If it wasn't him. No, he died at the exact same time you put electricity on the door, And the only witness is to his surprise death was his widow, and she marries one of the guys that threatened me, that were reasonably threatened me, just desperate to stop me from asking questions about Matt Hyman's death. There's another motive for murder, maybe revenge. Maybe 2 weeks later, they were mad because their friend died while breaking into my home, and then so they come back, cut my phone lines, and shot me. Okay. Here I was told on a recorded phone call there were four three-bedroom $1 million underground homes here, buried at least 25 foot deep. They're having pedophile parties there. Another woman told me that she worked on this project. It was finished in 1987. They had a budget of $7.35 million. She named the company she worked for on a recorded phone call. She said it was called the Safe House Project, and it was done for then Vice President George H.W. Bush from Midland, Texas, 1987. That's what it is, these underground homes. Another woman told me that there was an underground facility a half block away, and I recorded a guy running for sheriff. Joe Lozano told me our last sheriff, Gary Painter, used to hang out in these underground homes. There's so many people documented saying that they're there. And if you go to Google Maps and you look up my address, you'll see a large building in my backyard you can't see from above ground. Okay, so here, what I'm showing on here is here's some of the where's the other underground homes at? And I suspected one, of course, is my backyard. That's where I was ambushed and shot. It's where it's believed the last homeowner died here, okay, right behind the Midland Home Depot. And then over here in that empty lot, I suspected that home might have another one, because that home, they had the same mortar problem that my home. The brick mortar on the outside of the house was broke like mine, and I believe it's caused from digging under the home. And so that home had the same brick mortar problem. It has a water well. My home has a mortar problem, a water well. And here's another home next to the Fairmont Park Church across, and it also had the same mortar problem and has a water well. Okay, and so I did a recent video about this home, new evidence, new bunker information, and then I had a police officer that advised me to go snoop around that church on the Fairmont Park Church across, like it has a connection. And then also you could see where that tunnel was cut coming from the Home Depot store to my house. I showed Homeland that in 2019, and then they dug it up and poured concrete 2 weeks later. Okay, this is the previous owner of my home. He died the week before the 2008 oil show started. I was transferring into town at the time. I found out that he was telling his friends people were breaking in this house before he died. I showed you, the Odessa America deal where they had 2 death notices for him, changed in 2 different towns, And then also I mentioned my mom died the month before I'm ambushed and shot, And I talked to her like about an hour before she died, and she just said some weird things, She's like, "Buddy Wayne, pray for me." I said, "Well, of course, Mom, I pray for you every night." "No, Buddy Wayne, I'm serious." And then an hour later, she's dead, And then I find out that my dad, lied to me, and that my dad that's no longer alive. And I just did a video about that. Mom died, and then here Don Calloway, my first father-in-law, dies just a few weeks later. Okay, so Mom dies, Don dies, and Don was the builder of my Hobbs home that I believe was also rigged, right? And then my dad marries his wife in 2015, and they quit talking to me. I just did a video on that, and so my mom's death may be a factor. And then I was tear gassing the attic here, and I was a problem for these criminals, because they're breaking into these private homes, stealing services and threatening the life of the owner. And it's going to expose everything, And this comes from the district court. They brought this up in the protective order here. It was an attempt to make me look crazy. Is what they're doing, Of course, back then I didn't have 50 other homeowners documented reporting people in the attic. I didn't even have the names of the 11 secret police. It took 6 years to get them named. But yeah, I was a problem for them because I was tear gas addict, and so it could be any of these to be the motive for murder, we got to make some arrests and find out. This Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.